Thank you, Jane, for that reading. Thank you, Ted, for your words, our peace candle lighting, and Carrie for your stewardship words. You know, as I stand here, I'm so aware of everyone's involvement in making this such an extraordinary community. So thank you all. Let us be in prayer. God, as we gather here, help us to settle our hearts and minds, that as we reflect on your word, we might gain a greater understanding of your call in our lives to serve you. Amen. As I begin this morning, I consider this Thanksgiving season and want to share with you how filled with gratitude I am for this community, for you, each and every one of you. What a gift you are to my life and to this community. A gift as we deepen our relationships with one another, our strengthening our commitments to serve in our community and throughout the world, the care, the compassion, the love that is so evident in the many ways that we support each other. And as we extend ourselves out from here, from these four walls. The thankfulness that I feel in walking this journey with you is something that words really can't fully express, but it's in the heart and in the soul. I thank you for the encouragement that you give to me and the challenge that you give to me along this journey, and our collective thankfulness as we gather here today in the light of love, the light of peace, the light of hope that come into our worlds and proclaims goodness every day. Wow. In recent mornings, I've been going out with my dog when he gets me up about 5 o'clock, which I really don't mind. I like the quiet of morning, as you've probably heard me say before. And some recent mornings in the last couple weeks, the moon has been so bright at 5 o'clock that I walk out there with him. I just felt compelled to go out because the sky was beautiful with the moon light and the stars. And I would walk out with him in the shadows of the moon and just feel a sense of peacefulness, something so special out there. And I'll admit, though, that there are some times I've had to go out when it hasn't been so bright from the moonlight, when Ted and I might be sitting around at the end of the evening, well after supper is done, and both of us look at each other and say, "Did you close up the hens?" No, it would come from both of us, and so one of us would trek out, and sometimes that would be me, and sometimes it'd be so dark out there that I'd be carrying my flashlight. And it's amazing the difference. How suddenly there isn't that peacefulness that I have felt when the moon is so bright and you can see a little bit around you. But suddenly with only this little bit of a flashlight, you hear a rustle in the leaves and it makes you start. You can hear the coyote howling in the distance and it feels like it maybe is a little bit too close for comfort and you quickly run back in. What is it about light? Light that dispels some of our fears, some of our doubts, some of our worries. And that's really what this passage is about today. A light in the darkness of our lives. That is the hope that was foretold in the scriptures of old, and that was born in Jesus, and is born anew every single day. On this Christ the King Sunday and Thanksgiving Sunday, collided together in a wonderful way. I shouldn't say collided, should I? Are woven together in a very special way in our Christian year. And we celebrate the renewing of the presence of Christ in our midst and the powerful reality of love. The passage that we heard today that Jane shared with us so beautifully in Luke is about Zechariah and his son, John the Baptist. Zechariah is credited with those words that we just heard in our scripture, "And you, child," as he talks to this infant child, John. "And you, child, will be called the prophet of the Most High. For you will go before the Lord to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of salvation to his people by the forgiveness of their sins. By the tender mercy of our God, the dawn from on high will break upon us, to give light to those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet in the way of peace. To give light to those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the ways of peace. When his son John, who became known as John the Baptist, was born, you can imagine him looking at this small, tender baby, those tiny, perfect fingers and toes, the lips, the nose. As I imagine this, I imagine my experience I had to be at my daughter's, giving birth to my first grandchild. She asked me to be there. And I remember clear as day my son-in-law bending over, looking at his new baby, bundled up in that little nursery blanket there in the room, and just imagining that he too was just looking at those little features and wondering what this little girl, this little baby that they created would become. In so many ways, a newborn child speaks of new opportunities and hope. And that's what the magic of Christmas is so much about. This new life, giving new opportunity for all of us. A clean slate, a brand new book just beginning to be written in. Now, we can't start our lives over in that way, but perhaps we can be the guides for a child that keeps them from making the mistakes that we made and that we feel a sense of redemption through them. Like any dad, Zechariah saw the prospects in his son, the things that he might do and be, and in his case, a prophet of God, one who would prepare the way for Jesus coming into the world, the love of God breaking through to redeem us from those things in life that we come up against our happiness, our success, our joy, our fulfillment. On one hand, Zechariah's prophetic words are unique to his son, that he was called to be the forerunner of Jesus, to announce his coming into the world. But in reality, those words are meant for us today. Our lives are meant to lead the way, to prepare the way of love in our world through who we are and what we do. We are all asked to be lights in the darkness. Lights in the darkness of our world, to help dispel the darkness wherever it is. Because we are so greatly loved, we love. Because we are given such hope and promise in the darkness of our lives, we give as well. Now that is a daunting task when we consider the darkness that envelops our world at any time through history, both personally and beyond. A troubling medical report comes and we sit in the darkness. A job is lost and we sit in darkness. A loved one's life among us has come to an end and we sit in darkness. A member of our family is suffering physically, emotionally, and we find ourselves sitting in the darkness, not knowing what to do, how to do anything that can make a difference. But when these words of purpose come to us, to give light to those who sit in the darkness, we are that opportunity. And we discovered it is not just about John the Baptist or Jesus, but about who we are and the message that we need to bring into the world. As long as we accept the light that is within us, as long as we accept that light, and live in that light, then the darkness can never be complete around us. For even a small candle, when brought into a dark room, casts some light. Essentially, every one of us is a candle, which means wherever we go, we have the immeasurable opportunity to bring light and hope. That is a pretty powerful concept. It is a remarkable fact. I believe it was Mother Teresa who was credited with these words, that a candle loses nothing of itself when it lights another candle. How true and how powerful that light is. And imagine as we pass that light on to one another. You've been here on Christmas Eve, how the glow of those candles brightens this room. That's what we can do in the world, through who we are and how we like the light in someone else. I once picked up a book entitled To Be a Graceful Giant, a living expression of grace. And the author, Robert Litchfield, examines the lives of those whom he feels have truly lived in light. Those who exemplify what it means to live lives that are gracious, kind, just, devoted to goodness. Those who live lives, those lives are clearly filled with love and the power that comes from living in that love. And he cites people as well known as Mother Teresa and as personal to him as a professor he once had who simply said this: I believe in you. Graceful giants, he calls them, people who are selfless, who know contentment. And if we look closely into each of these lives, we will begin to see the common thread that runs through them all: their surrender to God or their higher power, whatever they choose to call. Lives that give rather than take. Lives that serve others rather than wait to be served. Lives that believe the most precious thing that we can do with our lives is to bring out the light of goodness in another. George Bernard Shaw once said, "This is the true joy in life, the being used for a purpose, recognized by yourself as a mighty one. The being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy." He goes on, "I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live it, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die," he says, "for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle for me. It's sort of a splendid torch, which I got to hold up for the moment. And I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations." Okay, so what does this all have to do with Thanksgiving, which is upon us this week? Everything, really. Thankful for the light of God's love that has come into the darkness of each of our lives, our world. And thankful that we get to be that for others and spread that light around wherever we go. Jesus lived with this goal: to bring out the light that dwells within every person so that they might shine that light onto each other. It's the only way our world will ever know the fullness of love and justice, peace and harmony. Wherever we find ourselves this Thanksgiving, may we bring to it our gratitude for the bountiful blessings we have known and for the wonderful opportunity that we have to give and share from all that we have, our abundance. the goodness and the love that we have the opportunity to share with others. For this we have been created, to be a light in the world. With thankful hearts, may we rejoice and be forever, forever grateful. Amen.